What's up, y'all? It's your girls, Doe and Moe, and we're here with another episode of the Rooted Life podcast. This is episode 5 of our new season, which is crazy. So, hey, y'all. Welcome back. If you haven't heard the last 4 episodes, they were bomb. So
late.
Make sure you go back. Y'all are late. But we're happy that you're here. If you are new here. So we've been best friends for 15 years. I'm Doe. This is Moe. And we started the Rooted Life in 2019. We ran the podcast for like 5 years, had to close up shop, worked through some issues. Then we came back. Now we got our new season here. But we love helping women grow and glow in the areas of life and relationship. And we build a lot of community around faith, well-being, friendships. And so we hope y'all will tap in. We got our little online school community, a couple members in there, you know. So would love to see y'all in there and get connected with y'all. And you already know what to do. Go ahead and like, subscribe, all the things. Easy. Don't miss out on your blessing. Okay. Don't miss out on your blessing.
Well, last episode,
what we do?
We spilled a lot of tea. Basically, we talked about all of our vices, like the ways that we have mismanaged pain in the past and just the things that we've gone to try to honestly cope with life, because life is hard. And just like how we've been prioritizing our health and well-being and how obedience has helped us be well, period. That's kind of like, that's the tagline. Obedience helped us be well.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then today we're kind of shifting gears and we're going to talk about work, but a different kind of work.
Okay.
Like a job, a job. And just like, how do you stay on track with work? Like because people are crazy.
Yeah.
And you got to work with them no matter what. So how do you stay on mission at work? How do you remain purposeful in how you move and work? And how do you honor God while you're adulting and working and being a leader in work? So we're going to kind of talk about professional stuff today. That's it.
I love that. The intersection of faith and work.
Oh, that's nicely said.
Yeah,
that is
that's really what it is.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, when you think about it, faith intersects, or at least it should, with every area of your life. But I think a lot of us, we separate it. Faith is on Sundays. Faith is spirituality. Like it's not a part of all these other aspects of my life. But like, if you really want to flourish, then they need to intersect.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Glows and grows.
Glows and grows.
Oh, am I going first?
Yeah,
oh, Lord.
I think you're supposed to be going first. What you glowing or growing today?
We're growing. But that's good. I was telling God, I was like, I thank you that you're correcting me, because that's a sign that I'm your daughter, one, and that I'm hearing you is also great, because there's been seasons where I'm like,
that's good.
Tap, tap, tap.
Is the microphone on?
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
You hear me and you're correcting me. So what I realized this morning, which I also wanted to pitch to you for a potential devotional idea, which is happening, is mismanaging exhaustion. And then I think sometimes in Christian faith, we talk about exhaustion, like, well, just lean on God and you won't be tired. It's like, we don't tell a new mom that or new parents that. Like, there's physical exhaustion, there's mental exhaustion, there's spiritual exhaustion. But sometimes you're just in a season where you're physically exhausted because you are doing what God has called you to do. And so I think what the Holy Spirit and I were processing this morning as I was running and working out was like how to better manage my exhaustion and be mindful when my defenses are down, so that I'm not being catty, so I'm not being petty at work. Because I think it's when exhaustion hits that you kind of compromise some of the things that you believe, because you just don't have any more strength to fight. And so really want to seek him and like, how do I manage what you've called me to do this season? Because I believe I'm relying on you, but physically I am just I'm just tired. So how do I manage that better? And what are some strategic ways I can maybe shift some things around so that I'm managing my exhaustion in a more appropriate and healthy way?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So that's what we're thinking about.
Exhaustion is such a trigger word for me these days.
Why?
And I almost feel like, because I feel like it's overused. I feel like so many people are just always like, I'm exhausted. And I'm like, what are you really saying? Like, what do you really mean by that? And I think that sometimes we truly are. But I think that we are in a culture that goes so much that it's like, that's just our default, when really it's like, oh, maybe you just need to spend a little bit of time with yourself. Or, and hearing you talk about this, like mismanaging, sometimes it's like, do I need to be putting other practices into place?
Yep.
And I'm really not as tired as I think I am, as much as I'm just doing too much. And I'm not taking the proper care of myself too. So every time I hear it, I just feel like, oh God.
And then it's like, some people are exhausted and it's like, you're single with one job.
So how?
I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but you got one job and you only take care of yourself.
Yeah, I'm just going to be quiet on that.
Anyway,
I'm going to go ahead
we'll
and
table that for later. I'll add that to our agenda for our meeting.
Go ahead in my own glow.
Get your thoughts.
This week, my glow, I've wrapped up the school year.
Congrats,
Praise
baby
the
girl.
Lord. Praise the Lord.
Congrats, baby.
This is my 6th year in nonprofit education.
Staying at one job is huge for 6 years as a millennial.
Where was I? I was at the
It's huge.
pool. And at the pool, people were talking about how like in DC to be at a job for 3 years is like a lifetime.
No,
and I was
is.
like, dang, well, I've been at my job for like 2 lifetimes. Because I'm like, wow, this is my 6th school year going into my 7th year now at KIPP DC. And when I was reflecting, the thought that came to my mind, this year I have been stretched beyond recognition, which is like, you can take that 2 ways. It's like, dang, you was getting stretched a lot. You don't even recognize yourself. But I think to me, it is such it feels like such an honor that God would like be using me in a way that it's like, no, it's time for you to be new, actually. And I'm like, dang, this is crazy. Like this last year, I did so many things I never expected to do. And he really helped me get through a lot of different things. So I'm just grateful that I'm still going and he's still carrying me. And, you know, I still feel like I'm on my way up.
But that's a good segue because we talk about work today. Many people don't know. We do the Rooted Life on the side.
Yes.
God, thank you for the energy and strength to run a business on the side.
Yes.
We have full-time jobs, but not just that. We have teams that we manage. And not just
Yeah.
that, we are in leadership roles.
Yes.
In some ways, like senior, like you know, top leadership roles where we make a lot of decisions.
Yeah.
And it's been a wild ride to get here. I think you could see somebody's like LinkedIn and be like, oh my God, look at all the great things they've done. But like, tell us a little bit about your career journey.
Yeah.
Is this where you saw yourself? You talked about being at your job for 6 years. Did you see yourself here 10 years ago? And then like, when did you begin to trust God with your career journey?
What's crazy is even saying that I've been somewhere for 6 years, I feel old. You know what I mean?
She old,
because it's like, dang, how have you been somewhere? But I'm still so young.
I know.
So that's just weird. I'm sitting here, I'm like, dang, like I'm a grandma. Anyway,
You're not.
no, elder millennial though. We're starting to push elder millennial for sure.
What you mean? We pushing elder?
You're older than me. What you mean? What I mean?
Like where you are in the millennial line is where you are. It's not like we're not moving in that. It's an age group.
Yeah, but like we're on the latter side now.
Oh, what do you mean now? Have we not always been latter millennials?
I mean,
because it's like 90 whatever to whatever. You know what I mean?
No, I get what you're saying. I guess what I'm saying is I'm starting to feel like an older millennial.
As
now.
there's more generations underneath us. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Gen
like,
Z and
we'll
whoever.
always be the millennials.
Yes,
but it's now I'm feeling like an elder. Yeah. So anyway, my career journey. So you found out for the first time today that I started college pre-law.
I did not know that
which
about
is
you.
crazy.
You as a lawyer, it doesn't surprise me though.
I feel like I probably would be good at it, but I also am the type of person that believes I'd be good at anything that I decide to do.
You would be good,
honestly.
but I don't think you would like all the studying and the book stuff.
No. I'm not an
piece.
academic, which is probably, I mean, I got a C in poli-sci. That's what ended all the dreams. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? I'll pass on this. I'm more creative than an academic, for sure.
Agreed. Very creative.
But yeah, so no, this is not where I thought I would end up in short. Okay. Because I remember going around saying, I'm going to be an international corporate lawyer. I don't even know what that means. But I remember going around saying that in the 5th grade.
As a child?
As a child, that is what I would say.
That girl's always been ambitious. I love it.
I'm not mad at
beautiful.
it. I'm not mad at it. But I don't think that I realized that the work that I was doing was meant to be like a form of worship to God. And so I wasn't trusting him with my career path early on. Like going into school, I chose what I thought I wanted to do, which was be pre-law. And then even all the jobs that I took after that, it's like if I saw something I wanted, I would just go for it. And the Lord was kind enough in like gracing me to do those things. But I wasn't necessarily talking to him about if this is where he wants me to be. But I was definitely saying like, Lord, help me get it. You know, we know how to ask for things.
Oh, I love a
but
good
not
ask.
necessarily partner with God. But I think things shifted in 2017 for me where I was fired / quit a job. Y'all had to go back to the last season to hear that story. It is a pretty good story.
Now, not in the moment.
No, not in the moment. It was rough in the moment. But that was the first time that I was like, okay, God, I only want to go where you want me to go. And I remember in that season turning things down, even though I was unemployed, because I did not feel like that was where God was calling me, which then led me here to KIPP. And, you know, I was telling y'all before we started recording, I have had the most professional success, like the most success that one could have at a job. I have had here, won awards, several promotions, had a team, creating my own path, like have so much influence and just respect at my job. Like anything that you could want is what I have here. And I'm like, dang, this is just a byproduct of choosing to finally be like, Lord, I want to follow you. And then just seeing kind of what's on the other side. Yeah.
Let's see. For me, I've had many jobs. You ever get on a Zoom call and kind of do introductions? I'm like, I've done many things. I've worked in a nonprofit. I worked at a school time program. I've been a teacher in DC and in Maryland. I've been a social worker in multiple counties. I've done a lot.
Yeah, a lot of things.
I've done a lot of jobs. I worked at a church. I just have done so much. So would I say that I have like a career plan or journey? No, I feel like I was always that kind of kid that was like, I'm going to be a lawyer and a firefighter and a doctor and the president.
Oh, all three.
I've always wanted to know like several jobs.
The president in there at the end.
No, I felt very strongly as a kid that I had what it takes. I also grew up in the 90s. So, you know, the politics were, I was like, I could do a better job then.
Well,
I grew up in the Clinton era. I was like, I think I can.
Yeah, well, which is interesting because now looking back, it's kind of like, were those the good old days?
I don't know.
Because now politics are like, what's even, this is a reality TV
this is
show.
Wild.
Yeah.
Anyway. It's a wild story. But as a kid, I was like, I think I can, again, I think I can do anything, basically. The confidence of a 5-year-old. So I feel like I've always been the kind of person who wanted to have a lot of jobs. And now in hindsight, I feel like God kind of just honored that. I haven't ever been the kind of person that just wanted to do one thing. Forever, like I'm gonna be a lawyer. I never I thought I'd be a teacher, but I never thought I would be a teacher like forever. And so I think it's cool that I've been able to explore a lot of different career paths, but I've always wanted to help people. That's been like my grounding. Like I want to serve and help people, and all of my jobs have kind of derived from that, honestly, which has been cool. But has it been linear? No. Did I have a plan to get to my current job? Absolutely not. Did I think I was gonna I actually worked with my organization as a partner organization back in 10 or 9 when they first started.
Okay.
So I knew of them, but I didn't think that like 10 years ago I would like be running a huge portion of our programming and part of our organization. So that is just kind of, no, I didn't plan this. Didn't see myself here. When did I start trusting God? I think from the beginning, because I moved up to a new city for a job.
Yeah.
So I kind of was forced into trusting him because the job that I was getting was AmeriCorps and they had to reapply for their grant. So like, we think we're going to get it. We get it every year. There's no reason. You should just like come up and we'll see.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So I feel like from there, I kind of had to. And then, you know, nonprofit and finances in DC is just, it can be.
Don't get me started.
It can be challenging. So I feel like I've had the opportunity to trust him in all of that because a lot of the jobs I took were not well paying at all, but I felt very passionate about the mission and I felt very drawn to the work. And so I've had to trust him because the finances just have not been there until this current job, to be honest. So I think it's kind of forced me to trust him there.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it's like the paths have not been linear for either of us. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, particularly millennials who I think we are really the first generation to not do the like, I'm selecting a job and I plan to retire in this job. Cause I know my parents, they look at me and they're like, you always doing, you know, and this, but in a, almost in an admiring way.
Yeah,
they're
I
like,
agree.
dang, that's okay. You're doing this and now you're doing that. And now you're doing this. In the beginning, I don't think they were like, this isn't going to go well. But I think now it's cool to see so many of us get to have these different paths. But and in the moment, though, it doesn't always feel cool. It feels like, what am I doing? What is God doing? Where are we going? But we get a lot of insight that is hindsight. And so can you think back to a time where something was not making sense, but you see now how like, okay, God, I see what you were doing there. And how were you navigating it like in the moment?
There's so many. None of my jobs made sense.
Yeah.
Not one. Like even going back to school for social work, I think about that now. I'm like, I don't even know if I used my degree. I went back to school to do a thing that I went into debt. Okay, do you hear me? I went into debt for a master's degree that I don't actually really use.
Ooh, you sure
So
did.
it wasn't even that it was just job. It was like other career opportunities and degrees. I'm like, I just feel like I'm supposed to do this. So none of them have ever made sense, and they've cost financially.
Yeah.
They've cost
And
emotionally,
time.
sacrifice, all of them. There's a lot of things. I think being a social, I never wanted to do CPS work. So I went to school, got my master's in social work, and swore that I would never be like a child protective intern, like social worker. I did not have good experiences with them when I was a teacher. They had been very, particularly in DC, the ones I had worked with, some of them were just very negligent. And I'm like, I don't want to do that at all. And when I went to school, they offered to pay for the majority of my tuition. So I was like, where do I sign, baby? So I don't know how I ended up there, but there were just some placements that were really hard. Like it's really hard to go into a job every day and you know that you're going to see the worst of people every day. Like there's no victory in that kind of work. You take a kid away, you've done the right thing, but there's no one's winning. Like families, you are breaking families apart every day, and you're watching sin break families apart, and you're just doing your job to try to preserve the child. And that's really hard to go into a space every day knowing that you're going to have to like tell somebody their child got abused, or you're gonna have to like take a child from their family every day. And it's just like, why every day I'm like, can you like get me out of this? I don't want to be here. And I call my mom one day and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I really hate this. And hate is a strong word, but I truly don't like this work. It's draining. It's exhausting. It's triggering. I don't want to do this. And she was just like, Morgan, God has called you there for a reason. He's trusted you with this. Like he's trusting you to bring light into a dark space. Ooh. And that perspective was really helpful. And I'm like, oh, there's darkness here. And he uses his children to bring light into it, for us to intercede and pray for people, to bring joy and comfort in really, really hard times. And that was just a really good perspective shift of like, okay, he's using me to bring light. So let me start interceding. Let me come to work early and pray over this room. Let me pray over my files every day. Let me pray over my kids. Let me pray, let me just start bringing prayer into the situation. And so that job was the one that does still, it makes sense now, but I think it was just very humbling for my mom to be like, he's trusting you to go into here and bring his light. So you need to start praying. And I'm like, I am praying. She's like, no. I mean like go in there early and touch on chairs and bring oil and really ask for the presence of God to move in these dark places. And I think the last thing I'll share too is like, it helped me get really clear that we are in a real battle. Like people talk about like, oh, demonic stuff. Like people get, it can get weird. But the stuff that I saw, I'm like, that's not human. Like that's a whole, it woke me up. I'm like, oh, we think we're playing a game. And like he out here.
There's darkness.
There's real darkness. And I'm looking at it face to face every day.
Yeah.
And that was just very sobering. I'm like, oh, this is real life. So long answer, hasn't made sense. But in hindsight, the jobs have all built on top of each other. And I can look back and be like, okay, in that last job, I had to learn humility so I can lead a team. Okay, in that job, I had to learn submission so I could submit to leadership. So it's cool to look back now in hindsight and see that they've all built on top of each other, particularly in my faith and humility. So long answer, but
no, that's real.
That's the answer, baby.
The building blocks is crazy. Like, I think the thing that amazes me about God, which like it shouldn't amaze you because he's God, but I still just be amazed. I'm like, I think I'm fascinated by it because I'm a planner and I literally spend my life seeing beyond the current moment to make sure that things don't go wrong. Like that's what an event planner does. You build experiences considering every piece and you're putting as many plans in place to ensure that everything goes well in the moment. So for God to be like the ultimate planner, and when you say building blocks, I'm like, dang, he knows exactly what needs to be formed in us at every given moment to set us up for success in the next place. And we just be resisting. I would speak for myself. Like, I just be fighting. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I'm arguing. I'm, being petty, all the things. Yeah. And it's like, do you not see? He is setting you up.
That's good.
For the best, literally every single time. I think about particularly the job where I got fired / kind of quit. That it was a startup. And so startup culture, if you know anything about it, it's long hours. There are no rules. HR be the same person as the boss, which be the same person as finance, which be the same person as the general manager. And you're like, you can't possibly be doing all those jobs.
No way.
And when I have a complaint, how am I come to you, my boss? So that culture, though it was strenuous. I mean, I would work like long 70 hours with no breaks. Like I would go several days, no days off. And it was hard work, but it was enjoyable. So at the time, I really didn't even realize how detrimental it was because I was enjoying the actual work itself. But then over time, everything that glitters ain't gold. It started to wear on me. And as I started to see those things, I'm like, okay, I need to get up out of here. And I remember in leaving that work being like, God, why would you put me in this place? I came in there and I built so much. I got to innovate because it was a startup. I got to do things that had never been done before. And then I get to KIP. and I am trailblazing every single thing that I'm doing here. So he gave me my first taste of this is what it looks like when there is no blueprint and you build one. And I'm like, dang, you were setting me up for doing it. Though I did it in an unhealthy space, you set me up to do it in a healthy space. And now I'm thriving because I know what it looks like to ideate from the very beginning, to like make something out of nothing. And so when you talk about just the building blocks, I'm like, dang, that was a hard time. But I am so much more successful in my current season because I went through that year and a half over there.
And not even just, I'm also thinking about how much that situation, as you've reflected, has grown you as an individual. Like the humility, like the fact that you went back to that person and apologized for your behavior, like who you became as a result of that experience.
The character built.
Is really phenomenal. He's like, I know that this personality is going to clash with her personality. So I mean, it's like he's putting, I was telling somebody the other day, it was like, it's like a formula. He's like, okay, this kind of person's going to really irk her. Let me put them in there like that. I'm going to put this kind of personality because that's going to really, that's going to rub her wrong like that. But then as a result of them rubbing her wrong, she's going to have to go to me and become dependent. And then I'm going to develop some humility in her. And then I'm going to develop her leadership. And you're just like, okay.
And he will also give you a picture of something to help you see like what you don't want to necessarily be like, you know, because what I do remember in seeing that leader, I'm like, oh, well, here are some things that I'm seeing that like when I have an opportunity to lead, I know what I don't want to mirror.
That's good.
You know? And so it's also give you an opportunity just to be able to gather information to take so that you can do something different. But if you're too busy complaining about it all the time, you're not even recognizing what it is that you need to be doing different. And you'll end up actually mirroring the very same thing that you were complaining about. Ooh.
Yikes.
That part right there.
Yikes. I think about all the bad managers I had.
Yes.
I've had maybe one or two that I thought, I had two. I can remember right now, two of them. Two people who I've worked for since I was 16. I've worked for 16 years, 17 years almost. And I've had two good bosses. Oof. But I never thought about all the things that I learned from the bad bosses. So now that I actually manage a team, to watch them thrive, to watch them call me for help, to watch them be like, I messed up, and we'd be like, it's okay. And to watch them even celebrate me publicly around my leadership, I never thought about that the 14 years, maybe 13 years of bad leadership was actually helping me become a good leader. I never considered that they were helping me become a better leader.
Yeah, that he'll use it all.
Wow. Never considered that was not a waste of my time. Okay. Well, shifting gears a little bit. I know that you and I are high achievers, overachievers, some might say. I think that we just operate.
Some might say over.
We operate in excellence, baby.
Period.
But I think sometimes you got to be careful. I think particularly as Black women, that can turn into perfectionism. That can turn into like going to our jobs for stability and security and getting all of our self-worth and validation from a job. So I'm curious to hear like, how do you rely on God solely for your, like, to be the source of your approval and validation? And then, like, how do you then go into your job from a place that it's like, I'm secure in who I am. I'm not looking to them to validate, like, who I am.
It's hard. It really is hard. I think what I realized in that shift, like, from 2017 to now is that part of not like misplacing my affection in a job is ensuring that my affection is placed on God by being aligned with him. And so like the alignment piece is just so important. I don't think I was asking the questions. Like I wasn't seeking to know, like, is this where I'm supposed to be? Because I haven't needed to strive for anything in this new job, which is crazy to think that it's the first time that I saw him, but it's my baseline now. Like, it's the first time that I was really looking to God to be like, okay, is this where I'm supposed to go? I said yes to the thing that he placed in front of me, and I'm just seeing how, like, I have not had to want for anything. They continue to put things in front of me, and I'm like, is it not time? Is it not over yet? It's like, no, you're still assigned here. It's like, here. Okay, this is here. But it's great because it's also like, you know, you really just don't have to want for anything. Like God will open the doors, he will close the doors, he will get people out of your way, put people in your way. Like he will orchestrate the entire thing when you are truly walking alongside him in partnership with what it is that you do with your life.
Yeah, that's good. I think for me, it's like recognizing that we all want to feel appreciated. Like there's nothing wrong with wanting someone to be like, you did a good job. Like I value you. I think one, like recognizing that we all desire that is healthy. I think I think for me, a few things. When I'm doing one thing I've been working on recently, it's like if I'm working on a project or a presentation, I think about my desired outcome. I think about people's reaction to the thing I'm working on. And I walk myself through what happens if I don't get that from them. Okay. Am I going to be okay? Like I worked really hard on this work recently. And I really wanted my boss to be like, I'm impressed. But then I had to process, but Morgan, how are you going to feel if she's not impressed? If nobody claps, if no one recognizes this took hours of your time. Yep. Will you be okay? And I had to talk to myself about it and just be like, you did a good job. Like, I just realized that I needed to give myself that praise. Like, you worked really hard and I'm really impressed with you. So I just told myself that, like, I'm impressed with you. You worked really hard. You were strategic. You were really thoughtful. You made something out of nothing. Like, and I just decided to celebrate myself. And then I just told myself that whether they all are impressed or not, I've already given myself the congratulations that I needed because I know that I worked really hard on this and I'm really proud of what I produced. So when they gave it to me, I was happy that she was impressed. But it didn't like hit me so hard. And we were talking about this earlier from a devotion that I had and even from, what's that book called?
Emotionally Healthy Spirituality.
About just having a healthier baseline and like allowing praise and blame to be to impact you the same. Because if praise takes you too high, then blame is going to take you too low. Yep. And so how do you allow yourself to be secure enough in your identity in Christ and as a person, as a Black woman, as a colleague, as a leader, so that praise doesn't take you too high and blame doesn't take you too low, that you can just take the feedback and be like how can you take feedback and praise and it hit you the same?
The same way. Oof. Yeah.
It'd be like, oh, okay, that's helpful. Thank you so much. And you move on and not ruminating on one too much than the other. I think that takes a lot of maturity and I think that takes a lot of time, but that's something that I'm working on, that when praise hits me and blame hit me, I'm even killed because I'm like, okay, that's data for me. Either way is helpful data for me to learn how to like maneuver better. So I don't have an answer for that. I just think that's an important like thing to recognize and then to work on.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, in hearing you say this is also like realizing that everything is not for your own satisfaction. You know, like there's a purpose outside of that, of what we're doing with our work. And I think a lot of the reason for the striving is because like we're looking for our own personal satisfaction. But not thinking about like everything that we're doing, like that's why it's called servant leadership, because it's like as a leader, you're really in service to people. And so though you put all this time in and you made this amazing presentation, like you're doing that not just for the pat on the back for Morgan, but you're doing it because this serves a purpose to further this organization, which then furthers the kingdom. You know, like there's something beneath all of that too. So I think part of not getting caught up in like validation and approval is just moving yourself out of the way, remembering that there is something greater than like whatever it is that you are doing. And I know for me, like that's something that I get caught up in a lot, like because I'm like, well, I did it. I want the pat on the back. You know, especially from events, because it's like I have a completely different experience with events at my job than everyone else.
Of course,
it is my job to make sure that y'all have a great time at all of these things. I don't ever get to walk into something and have a great time. I'm orchestrating the great time, and I feel like God's really been dealing with me in like not being like jaded by that, because I'm like, I do all this stuff for other people and like I want to have a nice time, but it's like, but that is what you have been called to do. And so trying to remember that like it's not necessarily about me has helped even in that process too.
Yeah. And just remember that like I have a job on my job. My job is to be a light and to like show Christ's love. Like, but I so often forget that I have a job on this job. Like my job is not just my job. He brought me to this job with these people. Like we've been talking about in this season, I'm going to look back in 10 years from now and be like, oh, I was sent there to do X, Y, and Z. But you can get so bogged down with the meetings and the spreadsheet and the difficult people that you forget, like I'm on mission here. Like I've been called here. And I often think about the fact that everybody at my job knows that I work for a church before this.
Which is important.
I think about that often.
Context.
Y'all know that I serve on my worship team. Y'all know that I have a podcast, and I think about that. And not in a way of like, I have to like impress them.
No, yeah.
But I want my actions to testify to what I say I believe in. Like, I don't want it to be in conflict. Like how you got an attitude all the time and you say you love Jesus. Right. That's wild. So it's not like I have to be perfect, but I'm often trying to remind myself of like, how can I be a light here? How can I be patient here? How can I exemplify something different so that people be like, you respond differently when people... Now, I'm not saying I did that horribly this week. Holy Spirit, we talked about it. We tussled.
Yeah, we be up and down.
We regrouped. We got a new plan. But I just been trying to remind myself of like, girl, you on purpose here. Like this job is not about the job. There's something bigger and deeper he has you doing. he had you here for a purpose. So like, how do you remain just steadfast?
Focus on that.
Yeah, because the other stuff will have you distracted and really irritated.
Yep. That's so real.
Ooh, you be so irritated.
Double
you forget
mission.
you got a whole job here on this job.
Oh my God. A whole job.
Help us.
Well, even if you are grounded and centered, you've had your tea, you've done your devotion, you've talked to the Lord, and you're not looking at your job for validation and affirmation and security. Like you got it all together, let's say.
Okay.
Work's still going to be hard because you're going to, anything you do, you need people. It just, life requires being in community with other people, and people are complex creatures, to say the least. Complex. So what are some things that you can think about, like when you think back to your past of being in a space, working with people that maybe you didn't handle that well? You weren't remembering that you are on mission and that you're meant to be a light. How did you fumble that back?
Oh, goodness.
No, but what did you kind of learn from that, and what are you taking with you now in the workplace?
Oh, Lord. I think I fumbled more than I have passed, if I'm honest. Like,
That's
think
real.
it might be maybe 50-50. Why? It really is like that.
Fumble.
Like that clumsy, that video I sent you of like being clumsy. Remember, he's
oh my
knocking,
God. That
literally.
I was like, yeah, that is accurate.
Literally just bumping into stuff all the time. Me and work, just bumping. There's so many times I don't even know which one I want to talk about. I'll pivot from what I was going to talk about originally, then I pivoted. What I was thinking about is that when I started this job, I put a lot of pressure on myself to show up a certain way. I think as a Black woman, I have been taught that I have to always supersede everybody in order to get a foot in the door. And in some ways we really have had to. But then sometimes God graces you with the leader where you don't even have to do that. Sometimes he'll bring you into a space and give you so much favor that like, I still think you should work into the Lord, but I'm not going to break my back for this job. Let's just be clear. Like I'm not going to. And I feel like at the beginning I put a lot of pressure on myself. And maybe in hindsight, I put pressure on myself because I really didn't think I was equipped for this job. Like I still don't know why they hired me to do my job, because I have literally never done what I'm doing to the scale that I'm doing.
Right.
Managing the amount of people. I'm like, I haven't
done this.
You all think I can do this? And so maybe now that I'm processing it out loud, I think that maybe I was trying to compensate because I didn't actually think that I was equipped and ready for this position. Because it wasn't even what I had been believing God for a year. I was expecting something much smaller scaled. I just wanted to make more money, less work. Easy. So I think maybe I was just trying to compensate and maybe prove to myself that I could do that job.
Yeah.
And I think that looked like me overextending myself. I think that looked like me putting pressure on myself for things to be perfect when I didn't have the capacity or time to make things the best. And I think something my manager gave me feedback for, we had our like mid-year review, was like, basically she said it in a nicer, more professional way, but she was like, girl, like you're excellent. Like you're good as everybody's excellence. If you just do good, your version of good is still going to supersede everybody.
Dang.
So you're overexerting yourself when you could just do stuff that is good. And sometimes that's all we have the capacity for. And sometimes you're overextending yourself and you just don't have the time to make it excellent. And it's not your fault. We just don't have, you have constraints. And so instead of trying to make everything excellent when you really don't have the time, capacity, or the people to do it, it's okay if it's just good. Sometimes good is just enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. And so I think I'm learning in this season that like sometimes I can't produce the best thing I have because I don't have the people, I don't have the time, I don't have the resources and systems. And sometimes I got to be okay with it's just good. And honestly, it's still excellent to everybody else. And so I've taken a lot of pressure off of myself of everything being the best thing I've ever produced. And it's not the best I produce, but it's the best I can produce right now. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And so just being okay with that and taking that pressure off of myself has been helpful. And how am I showing up differently? I think even with my team, just like, we were talking about this a little bit with leading a team. Like we have, when I ask you for like all the resources you have when you lead your team, we use a similar format for our check-ins. And sometimes I forget to fill my box in. There's several weeks. Like this last week, I said, y'all, my boxes are blank. And I'm just as surprised as you because I thought I filled these out. Okay, let's just wing it. Y'all forgive me. And they're like, it's okay. But before I would have like sat on that all night. Like, dang, I'm not being a good leader because I'm asking them to fill this system, like adhere to this system. Even doing it. But I'm working 2.5 jobs right now in my job. So I don't have the capacity. So I think even watching myself respond differently, or even when I present things and I know it's not the best thing I could possibly do, but still show up with pride of like, this is what I produce and what do you all think? So I think just taking the pressure off of myself and then just like admitting my mistakes and just explaining to people like, hey, I have very limited capacity. This is the best I can do. Let's work on it. So
yeah,
a lot of different things.
Yeah. I feel like mine is similar, but also different in that, like, in leading a team, in the beginning, I saw everything like so much as a reflection of me that it was like unhealthy to where I'm like, all right, y'all represent me. You know how your parents be like, now y'all represent me. So when you get out here, and it's like, that's kind of how I would feel. I'm like, okay, y'all represent me. And because of that, I'm holding them to a standard to actually be me. And that's just not fair because I think I realized I was seeing them as just products, like just produce, and not as people. And going back to the mission piece, at the end of the day, if everything that we're doing is on mission for the kingdom, which means we want to win more souls, then you have to see people. Like at the end of the day, this work we do don't matter. Like the things that we produce, they don't matter nearly as much as the people that you're connecting with and the opportunity to make sure that on the other side of this, people get to meet with Jesus. Like, and that, it sounds so churchy, but like that's the real mission at the end of the day of why we're even here. And so I think, in leading a team, sometimes it's just easy to get hyper focused on the work and how you want the work to show up and how you want, your team to be talked about by other people. And so I realized that in having all these like expectations for my team, I wasn't really allowing them to be themselves, wasn't really giving them that flexibility. And I started to realize, like, I think Jared might have said to me one time, he's like, you know that like they're their own people. So how they show up, that's just a reflection of them, not you. And I'm like, oh, that is helpful to like disassociate my how I'm being perceived from how everybody around me is being perceived. You can't take responsibility for that. And it's also okay because like people will be accepted and connect to other people in their own right. You don't have to make little U's to call the team successful. And so that's been really helpful for me. I feel like it just freed me in such a way where I'm like, when things go wrong or mistakes happen, I just be like, okay, let's just keep it, let's just keep it rolling. Because at the end, a lot of times too, it really only matters to me. Like I'm the only one who can see it. But going back to that perfectionism piece, having to release and be like, everything doesn't have to be perfect, bow on it, I's dotted, T's crossed. Like some of the T's look like L's, and that's okay.
Not an L.
Sometimes the T's can be an L. And it's, well, not taking an L. You know what I mean. But yeah, so I think just kind of moving myself out of the way and letting people be people has helped a lot. Has really helped me release. And I think like what's different now is that like now I take the time to really like try to see and understand who people are outside of just how they're showing up at work. Knowing and understanding what people are facing, what they're navigating, what their life looks like outside of here actually helps give me context to know how to show up for you in here. Because now I understand like, oh, you got a lot of stuff on your plate. And so this might not have been at the top of your mind when you're also facing life stuff. And I can have grace for that.
Oh,
yeah.
This is cute. Okay, advice. We wrapping on up. Like, how do we continue to seek God at our jobs, and how can we continue to be a light in our respective spaces?
How do we continue to be a light? I don't know. I mean, you just gotta trust him. I think it's like, well, one of the things that you said, it made me realize like you really have to trust that God knows what's best for you.
Yeah, that's good.
And that whatever he is leading you to, it is truly for your good. Like he knows what it is that you need in order to be able to show up as your best self. And I think, we've talked about this before about like how God is more invested in us than we are. Like we think we're so committed to what it is that we want to do. And it's like, you think you're committed. My guy is tapped in. Okay. Truly. Like, and I think that trusting him allows you to be able to be the light that you need to be, because you're trusting that like, okay, you've given me this difficult boss, Lord. All right. I'm trusting that like, you're going to give me the favor that I need, or you're going to help me develop the patience and humility that I need to work with this person, or whatever the scenario is, but really remembering that like he has your best interest at heart, no matter what situation you're in. Like, it is intentional, and it is meant to produce good for you and glory for him.
Yeah, I don't know what else. I mean, trusting God is kind of the theme.
It is.
We're leaving each other audio notes, and I'm like, I guess trusting God is the theme
for the season. Well, I guess every season.
I don't know what else to say other than trusting him. Yeah. I think that if you're struggling to trust him now in this season with your jobs, look back at your previous jobs. Because that's kind of what we've been doing in this time. It's like,
look at the through line.
I see now how the through line. So I think that if you're struggling now, I think I was having like an IG live with a friend or did an IG live. And one of the things I told him, I was like, remembering is a tool. Remembering is a weapon. If you look in the Bible, he's constantly telling people, remember. The prophets say, remember. The leaders say, remember. Like, there's something about remembering that fortifies your faith again. So I think one thing I'm doing this season is like, if I'm struggling with anything, I'm just trying to remember again what he did. So if you look back at your last job, how did he make a way? Look how he used you. Look at people who've been blessed by your work. Look at the job before that. And sometimes just writing it down. Like I know a couple months ago, I was just struggling. I'm like, let me just write down all the things you've done for me so I can remember. So I think write it down, put it somewhere you can see it. But I think just taking some time to recall the ways he's moved to your current job. Even what I've been thinking about is like, I was looking for a job for a year. So even thinking about the struggle of finding a job. So I think anytime you can just recall the ways he's made a way, maybe even in your workspace can kind of help you trust him. That he's going to work this out and you're going to look back and it's going to be part of your story of how he was faithful.
That's good.
Is that it?
That's good. I think that's it.
All right.
Man.
Well,
trust the Lord, y'all. That's all you can do.
I don't know what else to tell them but to trust him.
Nah, he's faithful though. He really is. Like, I was telling y'all before this, it don't make no sense how much favor he'll give you when you where you're supposed to be. Like, and you know, these are just the things that we know.
That's so true.
This is like, I'm just seeing the things that I know of like promotion and access and influence and opportunity. This is just what I know. I can't even imagine the things that I don't know that he has done to make a way in these spaces. So yeah, he's good.
Well, I guess that's it, y'all.
That's it.
We hope this blessed y'all. I feel like it probably did, but go ahead, press like.
We feel like it did.
It blessed us, so hopefully
the spirit flowing over there too.
Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go ahead and like, subscribe. Y'all can follow us on Instagram. What else we want them to do? Tap into what we're doing.
Tap into the school community.
Yeah,
you know,
that's it. We on Instagram.
We in all the places.
Just look us up.
Podcast.
Yeah, Google us. You'll find us. We love y'all. Stay rooted.